I want you to picture something for a second, just an image. It's a quiet morning, maybe some mist coming off the water. You're walking by the Euphrates River,
Okay.
and you see a man praying on, a simple reed mat. And next to him, there's a whole flock of sheep grazing.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that's guarding the sheep, it isn't a dog. It's a wolf, a literal wolf, just pacing, making sure the sheep are safe.
Which, I mean, that's biologically impossible. It's absurd. That's a predator guarding its own dinner.
Exactly. It feels like a glitch in the Matrix.
Right here.
But in the source material we're covering today, a lecture on Islamic history and mysticism, that image isn't a glitch at all. It's kind of the whole point.
It's the thesis statement.
Yes. It sets the stage for a really intense deep dive. We're looking at what the source calls the pattern of ruin and the power of mercy.
It's a poetic title, for sure, but the content is actually pretty rigorous. We're looking at a whole collection of notes and transcripts covering, the rise and fall of these ancient civilizations, the nations of Ad, Thamud, the people of Lut. And it connects all that to the psychology of prophets and some really specific Sufi anecdotes.
So what's the mission today? Because this isn't just a history lesson, right? About people from thousands of years ago.
No, not at all. The mission is to trace this very specific argument the source is making, that human history follows a strict moral causality.
Moral causality, what does that mean?
The argument is that the physical world, rocks, the wind, even wolves, actually reacts to our internal spiritual state. When humanity breaks these natural moral laws, nature itself kind of breaks humanity in return.
But when we align with the divine.
The physics change. Even a wolf makes a peace treaty with a sheep.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because the source doesn't start with the peace treaty. It starts with the wreckage. It starts with what it calls the blueprint of ruin.
It's a heavy place to start, but it's essential for the whole argument. The source walks us through the destruction of these ancient civilizations, focusing first on Ad and Thamud.
And for anyone listening who might not be familiar, these aren't just obscure tribes. The text describes them as the superpowers of their day.
Oh, absolutely. Think of Ad as just the pinnacle of architectural power. They were the empire that thought it was too big to fail. The source talks about them building these incredible high pillars like nothing else in the land.
But they run into a conflict with the prophet Hud. And the dynamic here is, it's interesting, it's not about land or money.
Right. He preaches monotheism, but he specifically says, I don't want your money.
He decommodifies the message.
Exactly. My reward is with God. And that's disarming. If someone wants money, you can negotiate. If they want power, you can sign a treaty. But if they just want you to change your entire way of life...
It's annoying. It's a threat.
It's an existential threat. So they don't just ignore him, they mock him. They basically say, our idols have driven you insane. You're mad. They pathologize him to dismiss the message.
So the moral causality part.
Yeah.
How does that connect to their destruction? I mean, they were rude, arrogant, sure. But the source describes a total wipeout.
It's about the arrogance becoming entrenched. They didn't reject the truth because it was illogical. They rejected it because they were just intoxicated with their own power. And so the reaction from nature was a mirror, a fierce, relentless storm.
A wind.
A wind that just ripped through their stone buildings and erased them. The atmosphere itself turned on them.
Okay, so that's Ad. Power and arrogance meet the wind. Then we get Thamud.
Yeah.
And this story feels a bit more surreal. They actually challenge their prophet, Salih, to produce a miracle.
And he gives them one, a she-camel.
Which, to a modern ear, sounds a little underwhelming. Here's your miracle.
Yeah.
It's livestock.
Well, the context is key. The source says this wasn't just any camel. It was a divine she-camel, a clear break in the natural order. But the miracle wasn't just the animal. It was a test.
A test of what?
Restraint and resource management. Salih told them, this is God's she-camel. Let it graze. Drink from the water one day and let the camel drink the next.
Ah, so it was a test of sharing, of respecting boundaries.
Exactly. And they failed spectacularly. They didn't just ignore the rule. They hamstrung the cow that killed it. They basically butchered the very miracle they asked for because it was inconvenient.
And the timeline after that is just chilling. Salih tells them, enjoy your homes for 3 days.
Can you imagine that countdown?
Yeah.
Just 3 days. It's psychological torture. And then the destruction isn't a storm. The source calls it a shriek, a terrible blast.
A shriek, like a sound.
Essentially, like a sonic boom so intense, so visceral that it just stopped their hearts. They were found dead, face down in their homes, sudden annihilation.
Wow. Okay, so we have wind for Adon, sound for the mood. Then we get to the people of Lut. The source is very specific about their ruin. It mentions their sin men desiring men, but it also highlights their aggression.
That's a crucial point in the text. Angels visit Lut in human form as these handsome young men, and the townspeople don't just want to meet them, they try to assault them. They try to break down the prophet's door to get to his guests.
So it's a compound failure. There's the moral failure, and then there's this total collapse of the social contract.
Yeah.
A guest, which is sacred in that culture, isn't safe.
Precisely. And the punishment is described as a total inversion. The city was turned upside down and rained on with stones. The physical city was flipped, just as they had flipped the moral order.
There's one more group here that I think hits really close to home, especially for a modern economy. The people of Prophet Shuaib.
Right.
They weren't destroyed for violence or sexual sins. It was economics.
Yeah, this one makes you look at the stock market a little differently. Their specific crime was economic dishonesty, cheating in weights and measure.
We're changing.
Exactly. You buy a kilo of grain, they give you 900 grams. Simple as that. The source argues that this kind of financial oppression is just as destructive as physical violence. It erodes all trust, and they also face that shriek, a total societal collapse.
So when you look at this whole lineup at Lut Shoaibi, it's easy to think, okay, God is angry and likes to smash things.
But the expert in the source argues that's missing the point. The analysis is that these ruins are left as markers. The source quotes a verse that says, God does not wrong people, people wrong themselves.
That's the concept of zulm, right? Injustice.
Yes. Putting something where it doesn't belong. The idea isn't that God loses his temper. It's that you are violating the operating system of the universe, and this is just the inevitable result. You press the self-destruct button.
So if destruction is the result of breaking the law of the universe, the opposite must also be true. The deep dive kind of shifts gears here from the destroyed nations to, well, to the prophets trying to save them.
And this is where we see their humanity. Specifically, the source highlights the compassion of Prophet Ibrahim.
Right, this ties back to the story of Lut. The angels visit Ibrahim first, before they go to destroy the city. They look like humans. And Ibrahim, being the ultimate host, immediately roasts an entire calf for them.
Which is a huge meal. It shows his incredible generosity. But then, they don't eat. And in that culture, a guest refusing your food is a huge red flag, a sign of hostility. The source says Ibrahim felt genuine fear.
That's when they reveal who they are. We're angels. We're on our way to destroy the people of Lut. Now, here's the part that just blew my mind. Ibrahim knows these people are criminals. He knows what they do. But what does he do?
He argues with God.
He pleads. He negotiates for them. But what if there are believers there? Can't they be saved?
The expert in the source points this out to show that a prophet isn't just a mailman delivering bad news. Their heart is so full of mercy that they'll even plead for the people who deserve punishment. They become humanity's defense attorney.
It's such a stark contrast. And speaking of contrast, we have to talk about the bull story. This was this weird little anecdote, but the logic of it is just perfect.
It connects Prophet Moses Musa to a later Sufi saint. So you have Moses, who had all these miracles. He strikes the rock, and 12 springs gush out for his people.
And his people were difficult. They complained constantly about everything. Yet the rock still gave him water.
Exactly. So fast forward, the source tells a story of a saint sitting in a cave with a wooden bowl. He puts it under a rock, and it fills with milk. He does it again, and it fills with honey.
A traveler sees this and is just baffled. Wait a minute. You don't have cows. You don't have bees. How is this happening?
And the saint's answer is pure theological logic. He references Moses. He says, essentially, if God can bring water from a rock for a nation that was disobedient and always complaining, then surely he can bring milk and honey from a stone for someone who is obedient and loves him.
That is such a mic drop moment. It's an equation.
It is. It's saying that physics itself bends differently depending on your relationship with the divine. If mercy exists for the rebellious, just imagine the abundance of mercy that exists for the faithful.
Which brings us right back to our wolf at the Euphrates.
The wolf and the sheep. The traveler asks the saint, "Since when do wolves and sheep get along?" And the saint's reply,
"Since the shepherd made peace with God, the wolf made peace with the sheep."
That's it. That's the core mystical argument of the entire source. Internal spiritual peace manifests as external harmony. If you're at war with the heavens, the earth is at war with you.
And if you have a treaty with the heavens,
the earth signs on too.
There's another story that illustrates this idea of a treaty, the story of the prisoner and King Abu Muslim. I found this one so empowering.
Yes. This is about tawakkul, total reliance on God. A man is falsely imprisoned by this king, and he's in there, but he never complains, never asks for help.
Meanwhile, the king has a dream. In the dream, the Prophet Muhammad appears and tells him, "You have an innocent man in your jail, release him." So the king wakes up in a cold sweat, runs to the prison in the middle of the night, and opens the cell himself.
And here's the twist. The king apologizes profusely. Please, anything you want. Money, a position in the court, just name it.
And the prisoner looks at him and just says, "No thanks."
The king is just confused. I am the king. I can help you.
And the prisoner's response, I'm paraphrasing the source here, is basically, "Why would I ask you for help when the one who woke you up in the middle of the night to save me is already looking after me?"
Yeah, that's some serious confidence. It's like, I have a direct line to the CEO. Why am I talking to middle management?
Exactly. So we've seen the wrath, the wind, the shriek. We've seen the mysticism, the wolf, the bull. But the source builds to what it considers the ultimate level, radical mercy. And it centers this on the Prophet Muhammad.
There's a really distinct shift here. The previous nations were, destroyed. But with the final prophet, the dynamic changes from immediate punishment to an opportunity for redemption.
And the story of Abu Sufyan is the emotional core of this. We need to give some context on him. He wasn't just some guy who disagreed with the prophet. He was the archenemy.
He was the leader of the opposition. He started wars. He was responsible for the death of the prophet's uncle, Hamza. I mean, the source is graphic about this. Hamza's liver was cut out and chewed by the enemy. That's the level of hatred we're talking about.
So fast forward. There's a famine in Mecca. People are starving. And Abu Sufyan, the enemy, has to go to Medina to beg the prophet for help.
And he goes to his own daughter's house first. His daughter, Habiba, had become a Muslim and was actually married to the prophet. And this scene is just so human and painful. He walks in and goes to sit on a mattress.
And his own daughter folds it up so he can't sit on it.
Imagine that. He asks her, "Is the mattress too good for me or am I too good for it?" And she just looks at him and says, "It is the prophet's mattress and you are unclean."
Ouch. So he goes to the prophet expecting, rejection, expecting, "Remember what you did to my uncle."
But the prophet just sees the hunger in Mecca. And despite everything, he orders the grain ban to be lifted. But he goes even further. He prays for them.
The source describes the prayer. He prays for rain on the stony hills of Mecca, for the animals to have milk, for the children to be fed. He's praying for the people who tried to kill him.
Abu Sufyan was just shocked. He said later, "I saw the prophet crying for my children." It completely shatters your worldview. How do you fight that kind of mercy?
You can't. And it all culminates in the conquest of Mecca. When the prophet finally takes the city, everyone expects a bloodbath.
Instead, he issues a proclamation. Whoever enters the house of Abu Sufyan is safe.
He didn't just forgive him. He made his enemy's house a sanctuary. He restored his dignity.
That's the strategic and moral masterstroke. It's radical mercy. It overrides that whole cycle of ruin we started with.
The episode then wraps up by kind of dragging these huge concepts right into the present day. And the source gets pretty critical of modern society.
It does. It contrasts that ancient mercy with modern greed. The speaker laments people selling their daughters by demanding huge dowries. Or these horrific stories you hear of people looting accident victims instead of helping them.
There's a really specific comparison. The prophet would shorten his prayer, a sacred duty, if he heard a baby crying, just to spare the mother distress.
And you contrast that with someone seeing a car crash and taking out their phone to film it for content. The source is asking a hard question. Have we lost that basic mercy? And if so, are we just waiting for our own shriek?
It's a sobering thought, but it doesn't end there. It ends with this theological statement that supposedly predates the universe itself.
Yes, the text says that before God created anything, he wrote one sentence for himself.
And that sentence was,
"My mercy prevails over my wrath."
"My mercy prevails over my wrath."
That feels like the banner over this entire deep dive.
It is. It suggests that while the pattern of ruin is very real, the power of mercy is more fundamental. It's the default setting of existence, if we can just choose to tap into it.
So here's a thought to leave you with. If this source is claiming that the physical world, the wolves, the storms, the milk from a stone, reacts to our moral state, does that mean our current global crises, our environmental storms, our social chaos, are just a mirror?
Are they a reflection of our own internal chaos?
It implies that if we want to change the climate outside, maybe we have to start by changing the climate inside. We have to sign that peace treaty.
A peace treaty with the universe. I like that.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It was a heavy one, but hopefully a hopeful one too.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one. Take care of yourselves and maybe check on your internal weather today. Bye.